When looking for the king of podcasts, you're at the wrong channel.
Well, excuse me!
Looking for good ideas for life? You're far from good hands.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
If you think the listener is always right, you're far from the right place.
Out of order! Even in the future, nothing works!
Hosted by a Northeasterner by birth, but a rebel by choice.
Are you threatening me?
If you want a host that floats between love and madness,
and we know the night is always gonna be here anyway. Thinking of you's working up my appetite, looking forward to a little afternoon delight.
then play on and listen to Crazy Train Radio.
All right, guys, listen to this blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
Warning, creators of this game do understand the subject matter may be offensive to some, but they do honor the families and people that have been affected by these real-life tragedies that these individuals have caused. Want to play a game?
Oh, yeah!
Lover of true crime?
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, we got an interesting game for you to check out.
Wow.
With the mashup of influences such as horror movies, collecting cards, and RPGs.
What?
Led to giving birth to an incredible creation of this game, Killers, the card game.
You are all my children now.
This game is a collectible trading card game featuring some of the most infamous killers, with tidbits of trivia on the back of each card to help you learn some insight to each criminal.
Who the hell are you?
Let's not forget, during the game, cops will be chasing you and these criminals.
I'm a cop, you idiot!
However, check out their website listed through all social media today, which can be found under Killers, the card game.
Am I on the internet?
I want to play a game.
Hey guys, my name is Donald Heng. Please catch Sight Memorial Day weekend, May 24th, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio.
Hey folks, it's your least favorite host in the podcast world, Croc, Jonathan Steele. And boy, do we have a good one for you today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this next guest has a supporting lead role in the upcoming release Sight that is starring Terry Chen, Greg Kinnear, Ben Wang, and of course this next guest. As of this taping on May 23rd, it's going to hit 2,100 theaters worldwide as of tomorrow on May 24th, 2024. But let's go ahead and welcome Donald Heng. Donald, how you doing, sir?
Good, thanks for having me.
I pronounced that correct, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. So obviously, first and foremost, we got the new release coming out, Sight. It is based on a true story of Dr. Ming Wang, who is known as a world-renowned eye specialist who helped develop the technology that has restored sight to millions of folks. And your character is part of the flashbacks of Dr. Ming's father. But first question, obviously, how you feeling about the project? What's the excitement like for a major release like this?
It's huge, honestly. I personally never saw this coming. Throughout filming, it felt like an independent movie. We knew that we were targeting a theater release, but I always thought that it was going to, premiere in Asian dominant cities like Vancouver or Toronto, LA, New York kind of thing. But to get a major release in over 2,000 theaters is huge and unique to myself. I've never had that really happen. So it's very, very exciting. And I'm very, very happy with the project. I've seen it twice now. And I think it's fantastic. I think it's so beautifully shot. It's such a beautiful story. And it's filled with great performances.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I know some people, once they do a project, they go to the premieres and, different things depending on the level of the project, but they can't seem to want to watch themselves. So you were able to watch your work with this particular project and be cool with it?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with it overall. I only speak Mandarin in this project, which was a first for me. The unique thing about this project was that we shot it over 3 years ago, and I saw it for the first time this past February, so just a few months ago, and it was a weird experience, a very unique, interesting experience watching something that you've kind of almost forgotten about. And I do speak Mandarin, but then I don't speak it like a fluent level. I speak at home with my parents and stuff, but learning the dialogue was challenging, and it took a lot of practice. And so 3 years removed from it, and you watch yourself in the movie, it's almost like it's someone else talking, and it didn't seem like myself, which I think is a good thing.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, but if I remember correctly, Mandarin is probably the number one language amongst Chinese culture.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I know Mandarin is one of the top, but because folks, the reason I'm asking this, and for clarification, is because there are so many different dialects and everything else. In Japan, you got obviously Korea, you got China, where Mandarin's the most dominant, as I just asked. So, there's so many different dialects within 3 or 4 different countries right in that region. So I just wanted the audience to know where I'm coming from that. But obviously, like I said, with Sight, you co-starred with Oscar-nominated and Emmy Award-winning actor Greg Kinnear, The Almost Sunshine, As Good as It Gets, Terry Chang, Almost Famous Following. You've had a lot of work yourself with TV and everything else. So with this project going in, since it's based off a real story and a real person and all that fun stuff, were you familiar with this Dr. Wang story, or was it, oh, wow, this is based off a real story, and you start digging down that rabbit hole?
Yeah, I had never heard of him beforehand, but when I met him, he gifted me his autobiography, and I read that. And he was on set. The real guy, Dr. Ming, was on set every single day. And so he always gave notes, with performances relating to, I play his father. So he would always have something to say, which was very helpful. That's a unique experience for myself as well, playing a real life person. And playing someone who actually lived, and then having that person's son kind of guide you throughout the process was a unique experience.
Exactly, because I'm sure it was like, and I don't know if it was major notes and all that, but it'd be like, hey, my dad might have not said it this way or that way, or my dad's mannerisms were this and that. And so Was there a lot of notes that he would give to how you were portraying his father?
You know what? There wasn't actually too much. I think he always wanted to bring in the love factor that to show that his father, really loved him, which for me, it clashed with my kind of initial instinct, because I kind of viewed it like Chinese parents don't really express their love outwardly. Like, you always know that they love you, but it's kind of tough love.
That old school mentality kind of deal.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of which, in if we don't want to talk about it, that's fine. I can always cut this out. But speaking of that, parental love and all, we were actually scheduled to do this on the 22nd, but there were some napping issues with your child. No big deal, it happens. But do you find yourself different as a parent now where, like you said, in the old school and certain cultures and everything else, they might not show that love where you think with my child, I'm going to try to express how I feel a little more?
Yeah, you're totally right about that. It was complete opposite ways of raising a child. I kind of just looked at, and even my parents were pretty loving parents, especially my dad from a young age. You know, he really played with us more than my friends' parents played with their kids. And so I didn't have the best example in portraying this character through my dad because my dad was so loving all the time. But yeah, I would say parenting styles between the character and myself are vastly different. And I have no shortages of showing my kid love. Outwardly.
Right on. Obviously, and folks, make sure you check out site coming out. Check it out. Do a search movie through Fangoria.com and wherever you find your movie times to go to the theater. I'm sure this will also eventually be out streaming wise and all. But 2024, besides this wide release of this movie, which is, like you said, super exciting, you've had a pretty busy year already because you've done stuff on CBS with Tracker, the CW of Family Law, ABC's The Good Doctor. And that's just this year. And we're just passing maybe a quarter and a half into this year because we're at the end of May. So what's that like for you? Because there's a lot of actors, and I know I've mentioned this stat before in previous episodes, but I think it's like 1% of actors have a livable wage and in terms of working and all that stuff. So it's good that it seems like you're back to back to back working just this year alone, besides the other stuff. How you feeling about the momentum you're on with how things have gone in 2024 so far professionally?
Well, I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's a constant battle. It's constant roller coaster. You always think that you're on the right track and you're going to start having some good trajectory and momentum, and then it just dies. And really it did. It did. You know, I had a really good first half year, but it's a challenging time for our industry right now. With all the, AI talks and studios and whatnot, with the strike that just happened, there's a lot of projects that are just not getting off the ground yet. And so there's less work to go around this time of year than it was last year and previous years. So it's not a great time for an industry. And it's the momentum comes really hard and then dies fast. So it's honestly a very inconsistent business that we're in, and one that we constantly struggle with. You talk about the 1% who are working back to back to back. I don't consider myself one of those 1% people. But you obviously hope to get through there one day, but yeah.
Yeah, well, based on the things I read, you're on that trajectory of being one of that, to have and I'm not, when I say the 1%, most people think of, oh, you're Tom Hanks, you're Tom Cruise, these guys who make million, Dwayne Johnson, and I'm not knocking it. They earn it, the $20-30 million a picture deal. I'm talking everybody who can cover their rent and food and all that kind of thing, just your basic necessities. Yeah, they might make $100, $200, up to $500,000 a year, but they're not making the big money. So it's not just those at the top end making the big money when I mention the 1%.
Yeah.
So obviously last year as well, you were part of a Hallmark Channel movie called Retreat to You. So, that's awesome too, because it's funny. I was just responding before we got on here to people who run the Hallmark Channel PR wise about some projects they got coming up. Mm-hmm. But are you, based on everything you've done so far, do you enjoy doing like the TV movies for like a Hallmark Channel or the series like Tracker and Family Law? Do you have a preference of what you like to do?
Yeah, I do have preferences, but I mean, I'm able to find joy in pretty much anything I do, whether it's a Hallmark movie or a feature film or a TV series like Tracker, like you said. All of it comes with its own set of challenges. And honestly, I think I was naive when I was younger, and I had this instinctual, almost, you don't really respect the Hallmark work as much. But honestly, the Hallmark work has challenges of its own, and the people who lead it are incredibly talented, and they are successful in that world for their own reasons. So I respect it all, and I enjoy doing all of it. But if I were to choose, I do really, really like playing more complicated characters that you don't really find in Hallmark. So films like Sight that is coming out, and playing a real life character, I really like that, and I like to dig deep and really do the work behind the work. Yeah, so that is my preference, but I absolutely do find joy in everything that I do.
Well, it's funny you mentioned when we were chatting earlier a couple of minutes ago about the strike and everything else that was messing with the industry for a bit there. But obviously as an actor, everybody in the unions, both acting and writing, had their own issues union wide. But what was the biggest concern for you? Was it the things with AI, or what were some of your concerns when that stuff was going on?
Quite honestly, I do, AI affects the industry a lot. I think it will affect the industry a lot. Whether it affects actors specifically, I don't know. And I feel like we're more protected in that world because I feel like the general public wants to see real actors. If they wanted to see something that was virtual, they would watch an animated movie or something. And so if we were to put on a spectrum on how much AI is affecting each kind of like industry, I would put athletes at one extreme end, because I don't think anyone's ever going to want to watch virtual sports. They're just going to play it, or they're going to watch real people compete. Actors are not that extreme on the side of the spectrum, but I would pull them kind of closer on that side. I don't think that that's ever going to go away, where people don't want to watch actors anymore. But in terms of storytelling and writing and filming and stuff, I do see it causing a huge disruption, and inevitably is going to affect actors as well indirectly. But I wasn't too worried about it. And in fact, I've been in this for 12, 15 years, and it's leading up to the strike, it was a stressful time. And so when the strike came, I almost kind of welcomed it. And I just thought, you know what, I'll just think of it as a 3-month break, and I'll just take a break and just not have my mind on it. Because working as an actor it kind of becomes the center of your life. When you get an audition, you kind of drop everything and you tape the audition, and you kind of stay up late and you work on that until it's sent out. And so to be able to have a 3 to 6 month breather, I didn't mind it as much. All this to say that I do really feel with the people who are struggling during that time. Yeah, I don't know if that really answers your question.
Yeah. No, it does. I actually like that, because you being a family man, with all the concerns professionally and everything that was going on, it was probably nice to have that little bit of a breather where you can be home with your wife and your child. And, just you were able to have that breath to have the family life.
Yeah.
So, but, I think you just said it there about self-tapes. And obviously that's become a thing when the pandemic started and everything else like that. Are you cool with doing your self-takes, or because there's good and bad with everything, but were you a person that rather be in a room with the producers or director, or the people involved with the projects, so they can see how you act as a person with other people in interaction, where the self-tape, it's essentially take it or leave it, because who's going to have time to, if you get 100 self-tapes, you're not going to have time to send everybody notes. Hey, Donald, can you try it this way, that way, whatever, depending on what the project is, where you had that feedback, give and take, if you're in a room with the people.
Yeah, no, you totally hit the head of the nail on that. It's a mix of pros and cons, and you mentioned all of it, or most of it. If I were to only choose one, and I had to choose one, I'd say I enjoy the self-tapes more, just because I value the flexibility of it. When they do sessions in the past, and the lack of flexibility means that you really, really have to build your whole life around your acting, which is stressful. Lacking the notes giving is a huge thing. I do feel like I function well with direction, and I feel like that's one of my strengths. And so to have that taken away and not being able to utilize one of those strengths is not my preference. But overall, I prefer the self-tape version. I think in an ideal world, it would be a mixture of both. Yeah, it would be a mixture of both. Perhaps, you first do your self-tape and then you get to meet and interact with people face to face and then take notes. I think something of the combination is great. The worst part of it is doing like a Zoom audition like you and I are doing now. I think that's the worst form of getting the best performance out of an actor.
Right on. So obviously Sight is coming out in the theaters, over 2,100 theaters coming out as of May 24th, tomorrow, as of this taping, if you're hearing it after the fact. So the excitement's there. What is next for you? What's on the horizon coming up? Do you have some gigs booked? What are we looking at for going into the summer and maybe fall?
Hopefully a lot of auditions. I also did a small part on Tron 3 that's coming out next year, I guess, but it's a relatively small part. There's nothing really to talk about there. Apart from that, really, we're just hoping for a bounce back from the industry in a large way throughout the summer, and lots of projects going off the ground, and hopefully, more meaningful auditions, especially for Asian Americans. And that's why I think movies like Sight is so important. Not only is it such a great original immigration story, American story, it really celebrates their Asian heritage and where we come from, and it puts a lot of faces on screen in terms of representation, and that's been a talking point for our industry, for our culture in the last few years more than ever. And the more that movies like this are produced and made, the more it's going to inspire the next generation to keep making them. And I think that's a really important thing for our culture and for representation.
That's an interesting point, because I had heard you mention that in a different interview when I was doing some homework and getting set for this. But how much of a difference has it been with, because there's obviously been a lot more movies with Asian culture, whether it's Crazy Rich Asians and just the different projects, something like this and Sight, and where you might see, say, a cameo of a waiter or, different, just maybe spot roles, where now you see more of the culture emphasized and more stories told and just everything like that. Do you think we're going to see a huge difference with all these different projects that are out embracing the culture compared to other ones in film and TV?
That's really the hope, right? That's really the hope. And I think that the more, and I feel like there is this dramatic shift going on where blockbusters are not succeeding as much as they used to historically. And this hopefully pushes smaller studios to make independent movies that are based around original stories. And the chances of an original story revolving around ethnic culture and minorities is much greater than one that's a blockbuster, just because the blockbusters are trying to get eyeballs in seats. Bums in seats and eyeballs in the screen. The hope is that this will continue. And I have absolutely seen a huge shift throughout my career. I started 12, 13 years ago, and honestly, 12, 13 years ago, 90% of the auditions I was going out for was Asian gangsters, doctors, nerdy men, or whatever, and then now you see us playing romantic leads. We have our own shows like Kung Fu, which I was on as well. We definitely have our own shows and our own stories to tell. And I just hope that keeps going, You mentioned Retreat to You, and the special part about that project to me was that I was one half of a romantic couple in a Hallmark movie, and I was Asian and my romantic partner was white. And I think that speaks volumes. It's more than just, for example, if two Asians were in it and we were an Asian couple, to have that mixed race kind of visibility speaks volumes. And that's what we're just hoping for, just to move towards a period where we're not just known as minorities. We're just all just people.
Exactly. And final question for you. I find it interesting. I like to ask from time to time. And obviously I see on your back wall you have some bottles of wine and such. But obviously you keep a very busy schedule, both personally and professionally and everything else like that, and wish you nothing but continued success. But when you have an opportunity to sit back and have time for entertainment, whether it's streaming or going to a movie or theater or whatever the case is, whatever, because everybody's preferences are different. How do you like to partake in taking in entertainment? But also, are you somebody that will nitpick, I wouldn't have did that role this way, or I wouldn't have did that, or could you sit back with a glass of wine and enjoy whatever it is you're taking in?
The wine, first of all, is all my wife's. She loves wine. I don't. But to speak on entertainment, I love watching movies by myself. I often go to theaters by myself. I don't feel like I nitpick too much. I can separate the two, and I can have that suspension of belief and just really watch the movie as an entertainment piece. I can also go, if I'm researching a role, for example, and I'm trying to find some kind of inspiration, then I would dig into that and watch it with that kind of mind frame where I'm trying to analyze what that character's doing, and perhaps I would agree with their choices or disagree with the choices. But yeah, I very much go to movies by myself just for entertainment, and am able to separate that from the career itself.
Nice. Well, like I said, May 24th, site will be out. Thank you so much for the time. Much success, and please keep in touch.
Sweet. Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
Hey there, Friday fans. We know how much you enjoy the movies. Enjoy grabbing your Friday merchandise and interacting with the Friday family, whether it be at conventions or during our particular watch-alongs. Well, when you're looking to get yourself masks, why not check out our friends over at Camp Blood Customs out of New York State and order your specific custom mask from any of the films. All orders are made specifically. Your needs and wants are. Make sure you find Camp Blood Customs on Facebook, Instagram, and all over social media and order yours today.
Hey there, it's Alan Troutman, Tarman from Return of the Living Dead, and if there's anybody you should listen to, it's me, about listening to Crazy Train Radio. Go do it. Go away. Do it now.